Hello, welcome to the Motivational Stories podcast. I am your host, Ricky Lahiri, and today's story is called George Washington and the Delaware Crossing, A Night of Doubt. The wind howled like a banshee, tearing at the ill-fitting cloak wrapped around George Washington's broad shoulders. December 1776. The Continental Army, a ragged band of patriots clinging to a cause that seemed to hang by a thread, huddled miserably on the banks of the Delaware River. Across the icy water lay Trenton, New Jersey, and within its grasp, a Hessian encampment, their target, their gamble, their potential salvation. Washington, his face etched with worry lines deeper than any carved by time, surveyed the scene. Doubt, a serpent he usually strangled at birth, coiled menacingly in his gut. Morale was at an all-time low. The summer's optimism, fueled by early victories, had dissipated like smoke in the crisp winter air. Defeats in New York had decimated their ranks. Men deserted daily, lured by the promise of warmth and safety offered by the British. Those who remained were a skeletal force, their clothes threadbare, their bellies gnawing with hunger. General A. Young Aide, his voice trembling slightly, approached. "The boats are ready," Washington nodded curtly. Ready, but were they? Ready for a near-impossible mission, a desperate attempt to snatch victory from the jaws of defeat? The Hessians, mercenaries hired by the British, were known for their discipline and ferocity. Attacking them in their well-fortified camp, on Christmas night no less, seemed like a recipe for disaster. He scanned the faces of his men. Gone was the youthful enthusiasm he'd witnessed at the war's outset. Now, there was a mixture of fear and a weary determination etched on their features. He knew they were questioning him, questioning the audacity of this plan. He had to believe in it, for their sakes, for the fledgling nation that rested on their tattered shoulders. Washington straightened his back, the cloak billowing around him like a battle flag. He mounted his horse, its whinny lost in the howling wind. Slowly, he rode down the line, his eyes meeting each soldier's gaze. Some looked away, burdened by the weight of the coming battle. But in others, a flicker of defiance sparked, a response to the unspoken question in his own eyes. Could they do this? He stopped before a young private, barely a man, his face pale and gaunt. "What is your name, soldier?" The boy straightened, a tremor running through his thin frame. "Jameson, sir," Jameson, Washington repeated, his voice firm yet kind. "Are you afraid?" Jameson swallowed, his Adam's apple bobbing in his scrawny neck. "Yes, sir, I am." A ghost of a smile touched Washington's lips. He leaned down, his voice low. "Fear is natural, son. But courage is doing what needs to be done, even when you're afraid. Remember, we fight for something bigger than ourselves. For freedom, for home, for a future where fear doesn't rule our lives." Jameson met his gaze, a spark of determination replacing the fear. "I won't let you down, sir." Washington nodded, the weight on his shoulders momentarily lighter. He continued down the line, offering words of encouragement, weaving a tapestry of hope from the threads of their shared sacrifice. Reaching the end, he turned his horse and addressed the entire company. His voice, though raspy, rang with conviction. "Men, we face a formidable foe tonight. The odds are stacked against us. But we are not here to surrender. We are here to fight for what we believe in, for the future of this nation. We fight for our families, for our freedom, for a life where liberty is not just a word, but a way of life." A ragged cheer rose from the ranks, a sound both defiant and desperate. It wasn't the roar of a confident army, but the growl of a cornered beast, ready to fight for its survival. And in that sound, Washington found a flicker of hope. The hours leading up to the crossing were agonizingly slow. The men huddled together for warmth, sharing what meager rations they had left. Washington, lost in his thoughts, paced restlessly along the riverbank. He questioned himself, the burden of command heavy. Was this gamble a reckless act that would extinguish the last embers of the rebellion? Or was it the spark they needed, the desperate act that would reignite the fire of revolution? The first sliver of moon peeked through the clouds, casting an ethereal glow on the icy water. The signal. With a deep breath, Washington dismounted and strode towards the waiting boats. They were small, flimsy things, barely capable of holding the weight of a few men, let alone their supplies and weapons. The icy wind whipped at his face as he helped load the first boat. The men climbed in silently, their faces grim under the pale moonlight. Washington took his place in the last boat, alongside his trusted aide, Henry Knox. The oars dipped into the water, the sound swallowed by the wind's roar. Slowly, the small flotilla pushed away from the shore, disappearing into the vast darkness of the night. The crossing was a nightmare. The current, swollen by recent rains, threatened to pull the overloaded boats under. Ice choked the oars, making each stroke a battle. The men shivered uncontrollably, their thin clothing offering no protection from the biting cold. Fear, once a distant thought, gnawed at their resolve. Hours bled into one another. Hope, like a flickering candle in a storm, seemed ready to extinguish. Washington, his cloak plastered to his body with ice, refused to let despair take hold. He paced the small boat, his every step a silent prayer for a successful crossing. Then, a faint outline emerged from the darkness. The Jersey shore. A cheer, faint but full of desperate relief, erupted from the men. With renewed vigor, they dug their oars in, their tired muscles screaming in protest. Finally, the keels scraped against the icy sand. Washington, the first to disembark, stumbled onto the frozen ground. His legs felt like lead, his body ached in every fiber. But he stood tall, a beacon of determination for his weary troops. They huddled along the shoreline, waiting for the rest of the boats to arrive. The biting cold threatened to sap their remaining strength. But there was a change in the air, a shift in mood. Having made it this far, they wouldn't turn back. The fear hadn't vanished, but it was overshadowed by a newfound resolve. By dawn, the ragged band of Continentals had assembled on the outskirts of Trenton. The surprise attack, planned to perfection, unfolded with deadly efficiency. The Hessians, lulled into a false sense of security by the holiday, were caught off guard. Washington, leading the charge with a ferocity born of desperation, rallied his men. The battle was short, brutal, and decisive. News of the victory at Trenton spread like wildfire, a spark igniting a revolution teetering on the brink. The Continental Army, though battered, wasn't broken. They had defied the odds, proving their resilience and their unwavering commitment to the cause. Washington, his face etched with fatigue and the satisfaction of a hard-won victory, addressed his men. "This is just the beginning," he declared, his voice hoarse but firm. "The road ahead will be long and arduous. But together, we have shown what we are capable of. Let the victory at Trenton be a reminder of our strength, our courage, and our unyielding belief in the future we fight for." The ragged cheers that erupted from the ranks weren't just a celebration of victory, they were a promise. A promise to fight on, to endure the hardships, to build a nation where freedom would forever reign. The Delaware crossing, a night of doubt and desperation, became a turning point in the American Revolution. It wasn't just a military victory, it was a testament to the indomitable human spirit, the will to persevere even in the face of overwhelming odds. Thank you for listening. If you like the stories I tell, please follow the podcast and subscribe to it to get the latest notifications about the release of episodes. You can also follow me on X, previously known as Twitter, to get the latest notifications regarding episodes. I have provided a link to my X profile in the description section of the episode and the podcast.